What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Gravity the Beast. Welcome back to the Big Cap. No bullshit, just conversations about passions, philosophies, and perspective. So we here with some homies again. You already know. Everybody introduce yourself.
Twan, neighborhood real nigga, back again, like always.
Real shit.
Yo, it's your boy YK. It's good to be back on another pod.
Yeah, my name's Alexa, little sister YK.
You already know.
Word. So, and this is the first time in a long time that, we've had a female on the show. And we wanted to, but it's just a lot of the times in-person conversations kind of dead that whole process when we get into certain topics, right?
They be scared.
Yeah, more like angry.
Titled.
Yeah, like
Yo,
lots of sign language being used at that time.
Yeah.
But so here, let me read off the exact way that I worded the statement. So I said, "Is the honor in being a housewife gone?" And in parentheses, I put like needs a woman. Like this topic, I feel like you can't just have a group of dudes talking about it, because opposed to like breaking down a lot of what we talked about from the male perspective and our experiences with women, being that men aren't typically in that housewife role, you would need a woman, or at least get that flip side to get their perspective, and that's their long-term role.
Right.
So I want you to start it off before I or anybody else goes. So
Well,
is the honor in being a housewife gone? Or is there honor in being a housewife? So on to that.
well, I mean, for me, when I was like growing up, if I was thinking about like where I wanted to end up, that would never be something that I considered. And that was just, I guess, the way that society started to move. Like everyone was more focused on education, being the first thing you get, and then going off into your career. It's just kind of ambiguous, whatever you want it to be, but it wasn't really an option for me in my mind. Now that I'm, getting a little bit older and seeing it, for me, it's not that the honor is gone, but it's just like so many people want to discredit that role without ever having to have like been in that role. Like I'm seeing now that I'm older, moms, try to keep their job and stay with keep up with their children and keep up with their household, and it's a lot to manage. But the way society has viewing women right now, it's not anybody's choice, or it doesn't seem like it's like somebody's first choice. If you end up in that role, it's a lot of times it's like women didn't want to be there or didn't choose to be there. You know what I mean? Or it just kind of happened by happenstance. So is the honor gone? I feel like nowadays, people will first, look at you sideways like, okay, what happened? Kind of like, why are you, doing that versus it was my choice to do this. Right. So
It's like, you're a maid type shit.
Yeah.
That's what they make it seem like.
right.
You're a maid.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, if you ask me specifically, no. Like, I feel like the older I get, the more I look and I see, younger kids grow up, because I'm the youngest of all of my siblings. Yeah. So I didn't ever get the chance to just see, a child just be raised. And the way that my siblings are raising their kids is way different than you see a lot of parents doing it, at least a lot of black parents doing it these days. Yeah. So I'm like, this is like amazing. And I would love to just have this be, the thing that I do, with my life, and obviously not for your whole life. Like, for at least for me, I wouldn't, you have the opportunity to explore other things if you choose to after your kids grow up and after, your house is made and all of that stuff. So it's not like you're trapped there, but I don't know. I feel there's honor in it. But if you look at it from outside looking in, the first thing people are going to ask, or at least, from what I've seen, is like, oh, like, how'd you get here? Like, this was that like the choice that it's not usually the first choice.
Okay. All right. Josh, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I honestly kind of agree with what she said for the most part. Like, I think it's kind of looked down on just a little bit. And I wouldn't say, like, as soon as you say you're a housewife, people are like, oh, that's never where you want to be in life, looked down on. But it's questioned. And the fact that it's questioned is a problem altogether, because it shouldn't be like that. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that, in my opinion. Like, if a man is stable enough and making enough money to provide for his entire household, and a woman chooses to stay home and take care of the kids and maintain the household, like that's a very respectable and honorable thing. That's honestly, like, I couldn't ask for anything more as a man. You feel me? Like, I'm not saying that you can't bring more to the table. I mean, if you got more to bring to the table, I'm all for what you got to bring to the table. Especially if I fuck with you, if you my girl, whatever. Yeah. But you know, being able to be that, it's like there are a lot of girls who are not willing to be that. Like, and it's like it's not just about me. It's about my family. I'm trying to have kids. Like, I'm trying to, you know what I mean, have a continuation of my, like, myself, my heritage, my people, my family, like, yeah. And I want that to be stable. I want somebody who's gonna actively be engaged in my child, like the raising of my child. I mean, obviously I would be as well, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I want a partner that I could really count on, as someone who's really down for that. So, like, that's the reason why, like, I feel like she's right, in that societal view, it could be looked at kind of sideways, but I feel like it shouldn't be, obviously, because it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's the only way I can put it. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you know.
Yeah. Swan?
Yeah, that shit dead. I feel like, I'll be honest. Yeah, that shit dead.
Yeah, I wouldn't. No. Just say the Effie movement.
The Effie movement killed it. I'm going to be honest. That's where we at right now.
Okay. I mean, I feel that.
I feel like, because it's a lot. It's like everything that we're taught up in society deters us from that. And I feel like that's what we should be talking about. Why is it dead? Because I feel like we're all in agreement that it is dead. Do you believe it's dead?
No. See, like, I got specific feelings on this topic, and a couple different things that a couple different conversations that I've personally had recently that kind of makes me so interested in this topic, right? So first I would say, is the honor in being a housewife gone based on my male perspective, not being a housewife nor having plans to be one? I would just say, from the outside perspective, it seems like yes. A lot of women, from my perspective, seem to look at the role of a housewife as degrading in some way. Yeah. And I think that's an issue, but then I think the biggest contradiction that I think about is how a lot of the time people in general, but also women a lot of the time, are going to look at that role as degrading of some sort. But then when you ask a lot of women, do you want to have kids one day? Well, they say, yeah. When you ask a lot of women, how much money would they like their partner to make? A lot of the times it's either the same as them or more. When you ask, and this was a very specific question. I only ever asked this question to one other female, and the answer was surprising. But, and I'll ask you this now. Do you want to be obligated to work to pay significant bills after you have kids? Keyword, obligated.
Yeah. No.
Right. and that's simple. And that's a simple enough. That's a simple enough answer.
That was easy.
Like after you have kids,
that's what I want them to be, like, everything to me. At least that's what I'm seeing now. Like,
right.
And I just turned 20. Like, I'm not trying to have kids tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
What?
Or I was just gonna say, it's interesting because she's saying she's seeing it because, like, in the household she's in, like with our sister, like, you know what I mean. It's not she loves her job and she loves what she does and she's super passionate about it. You know, I think that's why she strives to continue doing that, because it's like, you know, especially in her field, she's a teacher, so it's like just
that goes hand in hand.
It has a way bigger impact than just like what she gets paid or whatever. But I think, you know, her kid comes first and everything. Her kid is coming first. Our niece is coming first. Like, and that. I like, the more she grows up and the more she like dives into parenthood, like I'm seeing that more and more and more as a repeating like thing. And this is like, I don't know how she plans to move, honestly, but I wouldn't be surprised if she was like, I'm gonna stop working for a while and focus on. I mean, she had talked to me about it. She had talked to me about it at one point. Like, I might just like Uber drive and just worry about her. Like, I'm like, I wouldn't be mad at you for that, because as long as you can support what you need to do, your bills, everything you're doing. She was like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's your kid. Like, take care of her.
Right. See, now peep this, bro. Last time I had this conversation with a woman and I asked that question, right? Mm-hmm. She said yes. I asked specifically, do you want to be obligated to pay or to work for paying significant bills after you have your children? She said yes. And as we went further into the conversation, it became more of a deeper thing to me, because then I had to question the view of the role of a housewife in her eyes. Mm-hmm. Because her reasoning was she likes to be active and she likes to do a lot. And she feels as though she would get bored and she wouldn't just want to do that. At which point I had to say, do you not think that the role of a housewife is a full-time job? Do you not think that it's a lot of work? And you're going into it under the assumption that you're just going to be perfect at it and have a bunch of free time to be bored? It's like that's a very large assumption.
Have you hung out with a 2-year-old?
Man,
ever?
Well, but this particular person, I would say, has experience with children, you know, younger siblings, things of that sort. But that was her personal preference based on her liking to work, and she says that she's always worked. But then as we kind of got into it, it became more ambiguous, because the question comes, are you saying that because you truly want to work, or are you saying that because you have no faith in a man who will provide you with the ability not to?
Right, right.
That's fact. I want to ask you
Yo, he's third. He took it there.
That's
though.
true.
That's what. Yeah, that's facts.
Like you said, obligated.
That's
you don't.
Facts.
Nobody would answer yes. I mean, at least for, I don't know, but
unless you have no faith,
right?
But I want to ask you a question right quick. What is like the rationale for why you shouldn't be a housewife, like in society, for as far as women? Why is that looked down upon? What are the reasons they give you not to do it?
Reasons they would get me not to do it, probably just
like they tell women. Like,
honestly,
it's
that same like response that you got is that, oh, I like to be active, I like to do a lot. Like, you find, even if everybody in the room is chilling and somebody has to be up, it's probably a woman in the room, like in the kitchen, moving something or trying to clean something up. Like, we want to be active, so I understand that, but like then the lens for what active is so like small in some people's minds. Like, you have to be working a 9 to 5 to be considered active, or you can be pursuing other things or choose to live your life in a different way by be a housewife. You can pursue your own business, whatever the case may be for you. The lens for what active is, I feel like, is just so much smaller. Like, that's like 9 times out of 10, that's the response that you'll get if women say that they don't want to do that. So I wish it wasn't like that.
See, now another story, right? Mm-hmm. And I got 3 particular things. So the first was the conversation with my friend when we had that talk, and it seemed like a back and forth, and then it's kind of unsure if she even wants to have kids at some point. And so that's her personal situation. Yeah. Now the next is a conversation with a friend of ours, OG, aka your mother's boyfriend. That's what he goes by on the pod. Yeah, he was supposed to be here today.
Yo,
but it took it farther, because as I was talking about the housewife role and how ideally, right, I want to be successful. I want to make enough money to provide a decent life for myself, actually an extraordinary life for myself. I want the finer things in life. And I would like to be able to have a family and have a multitude of children and provide equally for them all and have us be successful and happy. Mm-hmm. That's the goal. In that goal, if I am as successful as I plan on being, my wife's career is irrelevant. Not to say that I don't care about her dreams. What I'm saying is what she brings in financially is irrelevant if I am where I ideally aspire to be, So if we have children and you want to continue your career, like I said, if I'm doing what I have to do, it's irrelevant. But I'm thinking about the children and the home and all these different things first. So ideally, if I'm rich enough, I wouldn't pay for a maid, because my wife is going to hold the household down and I hold the family structure down, taking the kids and all these different things. Like, I'm not paying for a babysitter, because my wife doesn't have to work. If I'm doing what I need to for the family in its entirety, then my wife should play her role in supporting the family in the specific ways that I feel, or in the ways that we're best suited to. So within that, the homie of mine said he didn't want that. Even if he was successful, he said that he would prefer that his girl keeps working. And I'm like, who gonna raise the kids? He said babysitters. And personally, I don't like that. I want my child to be raised by me and their mother. I would preferably never have a babysitter. Like, outside of like if me and my wife are
go out or something, but yeah.
But I would prefer family. Like you're like, I'm the father. I'm going to work to provide for you. She's the mother. She's doing what I can't do. It's like I'm doing my best to hold everything down, and she is supporting me in all the ways that she is naturally suited to, and vice versa. So when it came to that, his view on the housewife was kind of demeaning also. Like, as a man, he was comparing that to slavery, saying, oh, you don't want a wife, you want a slave? I'm like, no. I mean, and then when you look at it, it's like a lot of women do tend, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say more so women than men tend to find a lot of joy from homemaking, from whether it be decorating the house, whether it be cooking or working on different projects and being a homemaker. So within that, if most women are going to find joy within that, why wouldn't you kind of
let them do that?
No, but then it goes into the view of that role that he has in his mind.
I feel that.
So that's the second story. So what's your thoughts on that? Like hearing a male.
Like, people like to overcomplicate things a lot, because when I listen, to you talk like that, I don't think that you would find a lot of girls with that view. Like, that would just be okay with, hearing you say, them doing the thing that they're naturally suited to do. And you're, what do you mean by naturally suited? Well, let me explain it to you, because you just said, oh, well, take this, for example, like homemaking. I wouldn't be good at that. You're saying you wouldn't be good at that, but like, that's something that I, as the 20-year-old who one day wants to have a home, am very much looking forward to. Like, oh yeah, I want to make it like awesome. Like, why? Just because, like, that's naturally just my brain is like, oh yeah, I want to have a home one day and I want to make it look nice. Right. Like, but the first, like Twan was talking about, the F movement and where society movement and where society is trying to show us like what we should want. There are women who don't, like you said, find honor in that anymore, and there's men who have that same view that's like, well, I mean, I'll have babysitters, watch my kids but it doesn't really matter. But yeah, you see the difference that it makes. At least for me, I'm seeing the difference that it's making, because we had this discussion, my sister and I, about, well, she was doing, black families and white families, and how white families tend to put a lot more emphasis on the first years of like their child's life. They'll pour that love in and that attention, and just differently, then versus black families, they'll wait till their kids are more like school age or somewhere around there to start trying to make that impact and make that influence. And, a lot of it is like, oh, they won't remember, but they know.
For real.
Like when you pay that attention to kids, like it makes a difference. My niece is only 1 year old. Her personality, people don't believe us when we tell her her personality is out of this world, because she feels like she can conquer the world. The amount of the amount of love, the amount of joy that's been poured into her, just the general vibe in her household is like, I'm at peace here. You know what I mean?
It's like, especially like with children, at the beginning of their life, that's all they know.
Yeah.
This is fact.
This is your world right
This is reality. And whatever gets there first tends to stay.
Exactly.
So if you start with that love, that is their reality.
But we don't put that emphasis. So that's why I feel like some people have the view that they have. I'm like, you want your kid to be great and successful, and you want your family to have joy and love and peace and all these things, but you don't do what is necessary to foster that from the jump. Like you choose to wait. Or even subconsciously, whatever, like, or society's telling you, nah, it doesn't matter. Well, it really does, and we can see the difference that it makes, even from her friends that she hangs out with versus her. I'm like,
And that's
I don't know why you
thing.
would. Yeah.
Oh, my fault. That's the same thing I was trying to touch on earlier when I was saying, like, I'm not just thinking about myself when I'm saying this. I'm thinking about my family, like you and my children and my family. Like, I'm thinking about the entire scope of my life when I'm saying this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and we've already talked about how when you bring a queen into your kingdom, that's a part of your life. That's an addition to your life.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? You still have things you're passionate and ambitious about. You know what I mean? You can stand on your own but that addition to your life is, bringing value and bringing, like, obviously a great relationship and all that. So so when I'm thinking about that, it's like, all right, well, I want an addition that's going to be for what it is, like, we're trying to create, like, and what we're trying to bring into the world. I'm trying to bring some real good people into the world, some impactful people into the world that have a certain mindset. You know what I mean? Because I feel like our family has that certain mindset to, like, make change and to do good things. So, like, it's like it goes a lot deeper for me than just, yo, I want you to stay at home.
Right.
You feel me? And I think that's my problem with it, is that, like, as a man, like, I think a lot of women look at it very, very surface level because of all this other stuff we've been talking about, the way society is making us feel. If they look at this very surface level, like, I'm not your slave. I'm not about to just make you a sandwich whenever you want. It's like, no, I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
I could make myself a sandwich. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I'm talking about these kids. I'm talking about if I'm the primary provider for the household because I got myself to the point I wanted to be in life and I'm doing well, then don't worry about that. Take care of this. I don't need that from you. I don't need that from you, and it doesn't matter, honestly. You ask most men, you ask them, like, if your girl made $1 million, like, it's not gonna matter to him. Dope, you make $1 million, but, like,
unless he's a homosexual.
I mean,
and that's like one of the traps.
I feel that.
Yeah.
That's one of the traps women get trapped into. That's like they say that's their blue pill.
Yeah,
because it's like they're taught to go chase their careers. They're taught to advance themselves, require long-term provisioning for themselves instead of relying on a man for it. So it's like they say women who make like $50,000 to $100,000 a year are like less happy.
Yeah.
Like 40-year-old women who make $50,000 to $100,000 a year with no kids are less happy. Because what they don't realize, I feel like women don't realize is the higher you go up, like socially or like status wise and money, it's like you deplete your options.
Yeah.
Because men don't care, but you do. And so if you're making $100,000 a year, most likely you would want somebody who makes at least that amount or more.
You're right.
So it's like you're limiting your options to what you could have.
Right.
Yeah.
And that margin, and I don't think women take that into account because, and I mean, I was just talking to her about this yesterday actually, where that's a conversation I really want to start with. Like, it's like if you're a woman that makes more money, I feel like money shouldn't be a determining factor in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I disagree there.
I mean, I won't say like
it's always going to matter your ability to provide, especially as a man.
That's what I'm saying. Well, I'm saying in terms of, I guess I'll say for women, then money shouldn't be like something that, like, for them they feel like they need to bring to the table.
Yeah, sure.
I guess that's what I'm really trying to say, because like it matters on the man's side, like as your ability to provide for the family. Mm-hmm. So like I understand that and I agree with that, but I'm saying in terms of like if your man is able to do that, hold that role down, provide for the family, then it shouldn't. I guess I'm trying to say like
women shouldn't overthink their ability to provide.
Exactly. Yeah. Basically, like you could rely on a man for that. Mm-hmm. That it's our natural instinct to want to provide for our family. If you know what I mean, if you could rely on a man for that. Mm-hmm. Like, and if like everybody has bad relationships, they go through like situations where, you know, stuff doesn't go the way they felt like it should go. You know, they might feel like they can't trust people because of the way they've been treated, even multiple times in the past. And I understand that, but it's like that's why when you get into those relationships, you know, you can look at it as a mistake, but you could also look at it as something to learn from, because whatever when you take that experience and you apply it to your next experiences, so that you don't experience the same thing. And even if something else bad happens to you, learn from that and grow. Learn from that and grow. And then until you meet your ideal partner, based off of your values and what you know what I mean, come to understand about your relationships. And I think that's what people miss. It's like people don't want to be hurt. They don't want to be rejected. And it's like, you know, they kind of want love to be easy, like easy to obtain. Like they want that love to be easy to obtain, and it's not. It takes work. It takes time to build yourself, to become secure in yourself, and to become secure in your like your reality, your natural, like, you know what I mean, place. Like, and I'm not trying to like put anybody in a box.
In another way, just your values, like what you bring to the table or what you bring to the relationship.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Twan was on the point. We just went.
I feel you.
Yeah,
I feel like
we did kind.
Part of that is how men and women like interact now. I'm not gonna hold like on the Fresh and Fit when they had Roller on there. Shout out to them. They was talking about the invention of birth control.
Yeah.
And so it's like they said once birth control was invented, it changed how men and women interact sexually.
That's fact.
Because now
That's fact.
women they had to have more responsibility. They would look for long-term provisioning because they would get pregnant and shit like that. As opposed to now, they could just have casual sex and
with no consequence, right?
yeah, they can focus on the alpha fucks instead of the beta bucks,
Right.
based on their sexual
That's
strategy.
a whole other pod.
Man,
Getting
yeah.
alpha fucks, beta bucks. That's a whole other pod. But getting back into it, right? The last story that I have when it comes to this honor of a housewife situation, right? It was at my job. It was a friend of mine and his girlfriend. So I tried to have this conversation with the both of them, and I had prior conversations with his girlfriend that kind of didn't end well because we got into some of these topics, and she's definitely a part of the Effie movement. Okay,
Effie supporter,
right? Nah, but it's like she sound like she front line, like my homie himself. Her boyfriend literally looked me in the eye and said, like, yeah, bro, she hates men. Like, she likes me, but yeah, she hates men.
How'd that work?
Yeah. Like, her boyfriend.
Make it make sense.
Her boyfriend himself told me this. So I'm like, okay, whatever.
You're okay with that?
I mean, I'm just like, so I'm just like, all right, whatever. So we start talking about the honor of the housewife, and you know, it was a cool conversation. And you know, when I start keeping it a buck too hard, you know, people get a little upset. So, like I said, it started off pretty cool, and it's like, yeah, the honor of a housewife, and she kind of instantly went again with like the negative side, but the arguments is where things go. And I asked her the same question about if you like, do you want to be obligated to work after you have kids and all these different things? And there was some deflection there, but it kind of came down to her wanting to work as a way to leave the relationship if it gets bad. Yeah, like that's kind of, and it went deeper, right? Because I was bringing up like, well, most men ideally would be able to make enough to support their family and allow their woman to be a housewife. Most men would prefer that. Not all. Like I already mentioned, my other homie said he'd rather his kids be raised by babysitters, and he wants them both to work. So we can establish most men prefer to be able to provide. Cool. She said she would want to work, and she would want to take care of the kids, but she would want to work, and she would want to make her own money. And then, like, kind of went in, I would want to make my own money, because when you're a housewife and you're not making your own money, and if he's abusive, then you can't leave and you can't ask him for money. So I want to keep my own job. So I'm like, okay, wait. So at this point, you're kind of like the way
You're finding a flaw right there.
Not necessarily that, but it's like so pessimistic that you're trying to cushion for the fall,
Right.
which is hindering your climb up.
Yeah.
Making you more likely to slip in the first place.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
for real.
So, but within that was her initial reasoning, talking about the abuse and all that different type of stuff. And then we started to talk more and more, and then we started getting into what I always say, natural roles. A lot of people get upset when I might say that, and they want to get into the men and women are the same, and we can do anything the other can do, and this and that. It's like, no, women are better at men at certain things. Men are better at women at certain things. We have certain things that we're exactly the same at. We have certain things that we're completely different on.
Right.
And it just is what it is. So, like, going from her perception of it, I'm like, I compared it to a prenup. The way most women might feel when it comes to a guy asking for a prenup, most guys might not articulate it that way in their brains, but a woman or a guy asking for a prenup is like a woman keeping a job after marriage. It's like, it's kind of like not exactly the same, but it's almost like
a fallback plan.
Yeah, pretty much. Even though it's like, I understand, like,
I feel
prenup works if you're good. Like, if you have something, they have something, and you're completely okay with leaving what you came with, or you have certain terms, cool, get a prenup. But when it comes to the job afterwards, it's like, if you want to, again, if it doesn't hinder the family in any way, cool, do what makes you happy. But what's more important to you? Is it the family, or is it maintaining some sort of independence? And if you agree to be a wife, what form of independence are you looking at when you're in a joint union?
And that's my thing. It's like, the thing about the prenup versus the wife keeping the job, it's like, the prenup for me is more like, I mean, you're right. It's a fallback plan. I feel what you like. So you right. Honestly, it's a fallback plan, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's not the same thing as the wife keeping a job, because marriage is a contract, and it kind of sets the men up for failure in the case of a divorce. You feel me? Dudes that'll work their entire lives for shit, and you know what I mean, like put their heart and soul in it, and certain careers and fields, whatever it may be, make a decent living, and then marry somebody. Think it's going to be the one for them. It don't work out, and then like now, damn near half their shit is gone, because like I decided to marry this woman that had nothing to do with, you know what I mean. And I understand like that's not always the situation. Sometimes it's, you know, she came up with me. And I feel like that situation honestly can be debated differently, because she came up with me. Yeah. But like just the prenup in general, like I feel like that's more of a like, yo, we're making a commitment to each other. I think that's what it establishes in our marriage, is like, we're making this commitment to each other. Like, you know what I mean? I don't like this financial whatever. Like, I don't want you to consider a divorce. Like, I think a woman would consider a divorce more strongly if there's the potential for that, like bread coming out of it. Honestly.
Well, yeah,
like,
but that's different, right?
I know. I mean, I feel what you're saying, but it's just like in terms of like, I'm not saying every woman is moving that way. You know what I mean? Obviously, but just when I think about it, you know what I mean? If you have relationships that are kind of like iffy, I'm not saying that he's really bad, he's really good. Like, if it's a really good relationship, it's a really good relationship. It's working. If it's really bad and they leave, it's really bad and they left. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that iffy relationships that really could be worked on and fixed. You feel me? I feel like when people are like on the fence and they're a little less willing to work on and fix the relationship when there's the possibility of an abundance of money and that independent lifestyle.
I mean, I definitely think that's a different conversation. I feel you, though.
Yeah.
I feel you, though. Like, money is definitely an influence for men and women, depending on what our circumstances are.
And
but
that's not what I want my relationship to be like.
To be based on.
Especially if if I become a successful man. It's like,
when?
You're right. When I become a successful man, I feel you. Like, like I want a woman that actually like loves me for me, you know what I mean, and like I understand like we can go.
Then we talk about one-nighters and
I know I feel
stuff. Josh.
No, I feel you. So
it's hard for me to not let like my perspective cloud my judgment on like what you had said, because I was like leaning in the same direction as Josh. Like, I don't think that's the same thing, like the prenup and then like the girl keeping the job, but like, okay, break it down to like the simplest level. Mm-hmm. If you know, the guy is saying, hey, I love you, but if things were to go south, we have this thing. Same thing with girls. Hey, I love you, but if things were to go south, I got this thing. Yeah. So that's what it is. In me specifically, in my mind, it's like, I wouldn't mind signing it because, well, if I'm thinking I'm going to marry who I think I'm going to marry, it doesn't even matter. Yeah, it's just a piece of paper. We're going to toss it in the back and forget it even ever happened.
Exactly.
So, but I hear what you're saying.
Right.
So I have a question then, based off what she just said.
Yeah.
For you, how do you feel about, like, do you think men should ask for prenups?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think women should keep their jobs after they're married?
Not if they have faith in the man they're marrying.
I'm saying, like, if the man can provide for them and all that, yeah. So, and that was kind of my point.
And I do want to add to that answer, though. I don't want to make it seem overly simplified, because it does depend on how it affects the family, what is the job.
I mean,
so on and so forth. Is like, if I make enough money to provide, then why are you still working at McDonald's? Like, you have the reason to do that. That being said, like, if you're a fashion designer and you're passionate about drawing and designing new things, and you have some spare time there and there, and you want to keep that job, it doesn't interfere with the family, you can work from home, and the household is good, and
that's a completely different scenario.
Exactly. But that's different. But when you go into it with, and that's why I specified this conversation that I had, the mentality of the person I'm talking about was mainly trying to keep a job as a way to escape, not a passion job.
Yes.
Like, not something that she enjoyed doing. It was more so making money for a potential escape if things were not to go the way that,
like, I don't need you type.
That was her obligation.
Like, let's take it even further. I'm glad you just said that I don't need you.
Yeah.
So this is where the conversation became deeper, right? And it kind of bugged me. And this ended up with her boyfriend. Like, she was yelling at me, and her boyfriend had to, like, pull her away. And they had to leave. All these different things, right? So we had conversations about men and women and nature and this and that. And that caused some disagreements. But then it really went off when and he's right there. Like, he's watching us have this conversation. Mm-hmm. He was like, no, she said, I tell him all the time, like, I don't need him. I don't need no man, da-da-da-da. So I'm like, okay. Okay, so most men have a natural inclination to want to provide and be leaders and do different things. Like the whole, I'll jump in front of a bullet for you. Like, that's some violent shit, but that's like,
to be needed.
Yeah, to be needed. It's like, that's one of the most, like, critical things you can do to show your love, when you can give your life for somebody, you blood, sweat, all these different things to work for someone. Like, men want to work hard, push their limits, and be loved for it. So this is the guy that you're with. This is your boyfriend who you claim to love. How can you look him in the eyes and say, I don't need you? How do you think that makes him feel? I asked her that because, like, in my mind, I'm like, are you dead ass right now? Because it's like, if you don't need me, why are we together? I'm not saying you need as in, like, you're gonna die without me, but at the same time, it's like, you should be good by yourself. You should be good single. And if you're with me, it's because I bring some type of value to you. There's something within me that's better than other people. You're with me because you for the love that you currently feel, I'm required for that.
There you go.
So you don't need me. Why would, like, so? And I asked that, and it was a serious question. Now, of course, the boyfriend in this situation, he doesn't care. He just goes with the flow. He doesn't really take what she says serious, even though, like, I personally don't think they're going to be together long term, simply because a lot of the differences within that. She doesn't want to be a housewife. You want to keep a job. I'm like, okay, so this particular friend, he wants to be a special agent. He wants to FBI, like, he about to graduate and do all these different things. This is what he want to do. So I'm like, okay, if he's working long hours and doing all these different things, who's going to raise the kids? Are y'all not going to last long term? If you're like dead set on that, not going to last long term. But of course, you're focused on the out anyway. Cool. And then you say you don't need him. So when I asked him, like, how do you think that makes him feel? You know what pissed me off? Instead of answering, she turned, looked at him, and said, I don't know. How do you feel?
Wow.
You just, where's your Where's your empathy? You just avoided that. Just so that, like, you're that angry. Oh,
bruh, and that bugged me. And then she was like, I don't know. And then I went into it. I was like, look, like as a man, we both like to da 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 da. As soon as I said as a man, she was like, I don't like that. That sounds dirty. When I said as a man.
That's just you not recognizing the differences, and not even acknowledging them, or just your point of view.
There are no differences.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Yeah. It's not that she's not recognizing; it's that she literally doesn't believe there are differences. Mm-hmm.
So when I say as a man trying to explain the perspective of her man, she's like, "Well, why can't?" So you're saying I can't understand how a man? Like,
no,
like, yo.
Well, you're not trying to right now because you the first thing, like the first step in understanding is recognizing that you don't understand, like recognizing that you are different,
of course,
and being okay with that, and then listen, try to understand first.
And then that went into some other shit about like,
yo, that was bar.
It's like about what men have done, what women have done, how we're different. And then at one point I was like low key trolling. I'm not gonna lie, I was trolling with facts. It's like. But it's like, cause if I were to say, if you walk outside and look around, everything you see was built by a man. Majority of the time, that's not sexist. It's just fact. That's not to say that we haven't had a lot of things that were dope invented by women. But when we get that deep into the conversation, I know what I'm saying. Partially, I was trying to troll, but I was just trying to, it's like, look at like it's like I made a pie out of facts and smushed it in her face, and like was like, "Yo, taste that shit," because it's like I'm just it's like being real. We're in a day and age where we don't acknowledge our power.
Man, what?
Like, or I would specify like as people, but then I would say more so in men.
And men, because say that
because women are taught to focus on the wrong type of power that they hold.
Yeah, for real.
Whereas men are taught to not acknowledge the power they have
in the first place. And
you were just saying that the other day.
We just talked about this,
wow.
bro. Like that's what I'm trying to tell you.
So within that, right?
That's so right.
If men are more naturally innovative,
right?
If we make inventions and do all these different things, okay, cool. That's what we do. Women are better teachers.
That's fact.
Women are better. Like, we can't live without having both men and women, period. Yeah. It's just not going to work. Agreed. We got to just be real about certain things. So when we get so caught up in trying to be equal and like, yeah, you can do anything. No. Equal in the sense that we are part of this pie, and you and me make up this pie. You do certain things. I do certain things. Certain things might be more physically taxing on me. Certain things might be more mentally, emotionally taxing on you.
It makes me think of like the WNBA and how like like the WNBA players are always like laugh to myself low key, and that's like not to be disrespectful, but when they feel like they should be paid the same as the NBA players, because it's like, bro, you just got to be realistic. Like, and it's not even disrespect.
Before you even elaborate, what's your thoughts on that?
I feel like people have to be realistic and also be like, I don't know. Well, my first thing is also be grateful. Like, where you at now? Like, you worked really hard to do what you're doing, and you're doing it, man. Like, and so I mean, that nuance just doesn't matter to me. Like, women being paid equally in other places, like if you're doing the exact same job, but like you're not even I mean, now I don't follow the NBA or the WNBA, but I'm assuming the women aren't scoring as much as the men in some places. I'm assuming they're not, like physically able, like, or they're not doing.
All right, so and that's the thing. It's like, that's interesting. It's like, I'm not even speaking on that because, like, A, to not be like disrespectful,
right?
But B, like, there are actually a lot of women out there that are hoopers, real hoopers, that can run with men, women. It don't matter. They're nice.
Speak on a professional level.
You know what I mean? Well, on a professional level, like in the WNBA specifically, that are every WNBA hooper are professional hoopers. They do this for a living. They get paid to play basketball. Like, if you get paid to play basketball, you're a pro. It don't matter if you're in the States, in the NBA, overseas.
Are there not different levels? Like,
if
you pass the Genin exams, you're a ninja, but that don't make you Jonin or Hokage level.
I feel, and that, I mean, and we can accept, like, I can acknowledge that there are different pro leagues, but like, obviously,
should a Genin and a Hokage get paid the same, even though they're both professional ninja?
Oh no, absolutely not.
All right,
but I'm saying
there's no argument there with the WNBA.
And that's that's my point. It's like they're not like. It's more about like the content, and then also like the level of attention they attract as well too. Mm-hmm. It's like, all right, you're asking to get paid as much as LeBron, but you don't bring in as many fans as LeBron. Your whole team, your whole organization won't bring in as many fans.
I have an argument for that. I agree with you, but here's my argument, right? There's popularity that comes from accolades and skill.
Facts.
So when it comes down to it, I don't think, and this is where I feel like a lot of people might have it messed up. I don't think that the WNBA doesn't get as much popularity because they're women.
No,
it's not simply that.
It's the level of basketball.
It's the level of skill within it. So you're both pros within your different sets, but there are different levels of skill. Like, for example, there was a lot of controversy about lowering the rim in WNBA.
WNBA, that was insulting.
It was insulting, opposed to understanding that you can make it more competitive and more entertaining.
Exactly.
When we talk about just how men are built physically and how quick men are, the quick jerk movements we can make, so on and so forth, it differs from women on average. So if we're looking at women's basketball, it's going to be the same sport played at a different level.
When you watch a WNBA
that's
game,
what it leads into it.
And I agree with you completely. When you watch a WNBA game and then watch an NBA game and watch the difference, you ain't going to see nobody getting dunked on in the WNBA game. Like, and I'm not saying that there aren't women that could dunk the basketball or have the potential to do that. I'm just saying that there's a certain level of entertainment and a certain level of basketball, like you said, that's being played at that point. And it's like it's about what you could do physically, like what you're physically capable of. And it's not that we're trying to take away or say that you're any less than because of that, because you're still a professional and we respect you for what you're doing. But it's just that it's not as entertaining because you're not as physically capable. Like, you don't see women dunking on other women in the WNBA. Therefore, it's less entertaining.
Or I'll say casually, only because I saw like a video of like the top 10.
I mean, yeah, like it does happen. Like, there are more women now like coming out like really coming like, yeah, I feel what you're saying, but like, and not to say that there's not a woman who can do that and there's not the potential for that, because I mean it has happened. I ain't gonna say act like it's never happened.
But let's get back into the key of this though. When we were talking about the difference between men and women, this particular person, my friend's girlfriend, got mad. And it kind of just all rounded about to looking at the role of a housewife, where I'm like, okay, well, I see one person who says that she doesn't want to be that, and based off of the conversation, it implies that she doesn't think it's going to be enough work for her. She likes to work too much, so she thinks she'll be bored. Second is a homie who looks down on the housewife role. He would prefer to have somebody work just as much as him, and I don't think he's keeping in mind the impact it's going to have on the children. Then the third one is somebody who looks at it in a demeaning way. Maybe she's heard some horror stories about abuse and women who can't leave their marriages, so she's more focused on being able to leave when she wants to. All three of these cases, people are just looking down on a housewife role in different ways, and I just don't get it, because like most men don't speak on this, but like I ask, and I continue to ask different men this when I come across them or whenever I have a conversation, we get into these type of topics, podcasts, whatever. Would you like to be able to provide your wife with the opportunity to not work afterwards? Not saying she's going to use you, but saying, would you like to have enough money that when you have kids, your wife could stay home and she makes sure the home is good and you make sure everything is good? Like, would you not prefer that? If the person says yeah, then I'm like, okay, I'm keeping a mental note. And whenever somebody says no, that's when we have a conversation, and it's interesting. We could like the one homie I said, he doesn't want one. He looks at the housewife role as a slave. But most men want that. So if most women can't really come to terms with how they move in their life and will end up getting to that, then we're all going to have some issues. Like, as we do now. Like we look at the divorce rate, we look at all these different things. We could look at studies about kids raised by single moms and single fathers and the relationships and people waiting till certain ages and so on and so forth. Like, it's so much that goes into it. I'm just hoping we can find a way to get rid of the stigma of the housewife, make it honorable again, to where I'm not saying women should all just aspire to it and just harp over men and just be subservient and all these different things like that. That's not what I'm trying to imply. But if we focused more on the things that we want long term, if family is one of those things that you want long term, then let's focus on how to get it, and let's focus on what's holding you back within that, and let's see if we can move forward. You know, so like, what's y'all closing thoughts on this topic?
Honestly, I feel like women are taught not to trust men in that way. Like, as far as like being a housewife, relying on that long-term provisioning from a man, I feel like honestly women aren't taught that. They don't trust us.
I think I agree with what Juan said. I think to a certain extent we're just, as men, we're not trusted. And I think that's part of like how we're not taught to really be men, as opposed to like being good people. Yeah. You feel what I'm saying? We're not trusted because we're not fulfilling our role correctly. Right. And that's a whole nother part and a whole nother discussion.
I feel like that's kind of more taught that we're not needed.
Yeah, like, because they're...
I don't need no man.
Yeah. Like, they want to take care of all that stuff themselves. It's like, you trying to be a husband and a wife. It's like,
it's admirable but deceptive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what's your thoughts?
Women, I feel like, everyone's susceptible, to just following what they see a lot. But women especially need to stop wanting to chase like an idea and just, go after what your goals actually are. Like, if you want to have your career or your job or whatever, and you want to follow a certain type of dream, or you have that passion, go for that thing. You taking care of your family and, valuing that highly shouldn't be frowned upon, and choosing to, dedicate yourself to that should be just as valid as a passion for anything else.
Right.
So.
Right. See, I would honestly try and add, and I want your opinion on this before we close out. I would say focus on the things that you want in your life, but don't feel as though, and this is just a thought, I'll have nothing to back this up, I want your opinion on it, right? I would argue that a lot of women might know that having family and children is what they want, but might be shamed into not following that as their primary goal. So they search for alternative goals to find some type of validation, and then try to go back to their original goals later, opposed to being honest when they're younger. It's like, it's a lot of FOMO. It's a lot of like, now I got to go out, I got to do this, and I want to have a career. Like, even though you want to be a mom, you're like, well, I don't just want to be a mom now, and I want to be able to have this experience and that experience. Whereas I've heard of other studies, and we could bring this up at a different point, where it said women, it was talking about women in marriages, but then discussing their body count, like the amount of people that they've slept with prior to their marriage, and going into how women who have had 0 or 1 to 0 partners prior to marriage were happier than the women who've had multiple sexual partners prior to marriage. Not even, like, the differences started around like 4. Like,
that's very interesting.
It's interesting, but then it really is like the term ignorance is bliss. So when you haven't had any other sexual encounters, and then your first one, you take it for what it is, and you're focused on everything else. Opposed to, and you could add that into living arrangements. Like, if you lived in the same neighborhood all your life, if you've never left your city, if you've never whatever, you might be able to like keep your perspective on whatever it is, good or bad, super small. So when you have had less, you're more likely to be happy based on the lack of things to compare it to. Yeah. So what's your thoughts on that? That's the closer right there.
I think still even a lot of women, like, they just we don't focus on ourselves. Like, we try to find avenues in any way to avoid dealing with, especially a lot of emotion. Like, women obviously, well, at least in my experience, have a lot more connection to their emotion and making decisions based off of their emotions. So when we're young and we don't know how to handle it or control it or manage it, we will one, you do that thing where you just try to fit in anywhere you are, like make everyone around you happy or make them think you're happy, and you spend a lot more energy on that than focusing on, well, what is it that what actually makes me happy, what is it that I actually want to do. That would be a lot harder to do, because then you got to start holding yourself accountable, and a lot of people choose not to go that route. It's a lot easier, especially when you're younger, to just avoid it all. And then you come, like you said, they come back to it when they're later and they're finally taking the time to reflect, and it's like, wow, I could have been so much happier. I could have been, you know what I mean, working towards those things so much younger. I could move in so much different, and now have to try to make all these changes now in my life versus, so.
That's real.
I don't disagree with you on that, but it's like, that's just what you find. People being afraid of themselves.
That's real, and I hope we could definitely make moves forward, especially like
I'm already seeing it. Absolutely.
Together, like we have to. Men need to work on bettering themselves.
Facts.
They need to work on raising their value. Women need to do the same. We all need to get better. We need to communicate better. We need to work together better.
I feel like when it flip, it's going to be bad for women, low key.
If we take it too far, like, that's the other thing. People like to take things to the extreme and overcomplicate it. Like, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm like, oh yeah, like, it really could be that simple. But like, people aren't just going to take it easy. Like, everything that what the truth is, people aren't just going to want to hear it and then start actually actively changing it. That's
like, last thing. I seen a World Star video where a girl was talking about, me and my friends were in the club and no man approached us. And we was trying to figure out why. Like, why ain't you approaching?
Were they attractive?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay.
And it came down to it, like, they asked, and niggas was like, y'all don't even fuck with men for real.
Wait, what?
It's like, they feel like the niggas that they ask, it's like, women don't really fuck with or need men. It's just like, why approach you if you really don't fuck with me?
Like, if I got
most of y'all don't fuck with men. Most of y'all feel like y'all don't need us. So why approach?
Facts.
And then she was talking about how the Femi movement, what is the benefit of it? If that's the idea that's being portrayed, how does that help?
I think it's better to say, what's the benefit of it now? There was a strong need for it. But it's like, once we get, once women get, like, the right to vote. Well, obviously, okay, cool. Bet. I forget where it was. I think it was somewhere in Europe where they were saying, like, up until a certain law got passed, women couldn't own property. It's like, stuff like that. So we fix all that. Okay, cool. But then after that, it's like, all right, so what rights are getting fought for at this point? I mean, should the government be able to tell a woman she can or cannot get an abortion? No. Like, leave that up to her. Like, stay out of her business there.
Yeah, I feel that.
All right, yeah, let's fight for that. Like, I'm down for that. But then after that, like, what is it? Like, the wage gap, that's debunked. So it's like, what other rights do women not have that men currently have? And then that could be a whole nother conversation. But I feel like this was a good one.
Yeah, me too.
This is a good one. So you already know what it is. We're going to be back at you again. It's your
Big
boy,
Cap.
Gravity the Beast.
No bullshit.
Big Cap, no bullshit.
Thanks for having me.
Conversations about, oh, yeah, come on. You got to come back, too.
Absolutely.
We about to do another one anyway. Fuck it. Let's go. Now we getting into Rolo. We getting into Rolo here. This I don't even, what we said, communication. We about to get into it. But all right, we going to be back at you. Deuces.